In the next few minutes, I am going to show you how to use 12 specific food adjustments to lower your blood pressure readings, sometimes starting within hours. I have seen too many patients strictly cut out salt and eat bland food, yet their pressure remains dangerously high because they are missing the chemical signals their arteries need to relax. If your doctor has only given you a pill and told you to lose weight, they might be missing the most immediate kitchen-based tools that prevent stiff arteries. I'm Dr. Ben Harris, and today we are fixing your blood pressure using food science, not just restriction. Most people focus on what to remove from their diet, thinking that deprivation is the only way to heal. But I will show you one specific red drink later in this list that actually widens your blood vessels physically within 3 hours of consuming it. The order matters. Most people do the right thing in the wrong sequence, and they get frustrated when the numbers on the machine do not budge. We are going to change that today. Please comment your age and your usual top number range right now so I know who I am talking to. The first adjustment is what I call the potassium counterweight method. This is often the missing piece for seniors who have been told to watch their salt intake but are still seeing high numbers. Robert came to see me because he was miserable. He was 74 years old. Robert was a disciplined man. He did exactly what his previous doctors told him to do. He had cut out salt completely. He was eating boiled chicken and steamed vegetables every single day. He had stopped going out to dinner with his wife because he was afraid of the menu. He told me that food had lost all its joy. But the real problem was that despite all this suffering, his blood pressure was still averaging 150/90. He felt weak, he felt tired, and he was frustrated. Robert was making a classic mistake. He was focused entirely on removing sodium, but he was starving his body of the one mineral that helps the kidneys flush that sodium out. He was potassium deficient. When you are over 60, your arteries tend to become naturally stiffer. Sodium can make this stiffness worse by holding on to water volume in the blood, but simply cutting salt is not enough if you do not have the counterweight. Potassium is the mineral that tells your kidneys to let go of the excess salt. It relaxes the walls of your blood vessels. Robert was eating healthy foods, but they were low-nutrient foods. He was eating white rice and overcooked green beans, which had very little potassium. So we changed his strategy. We did not focus on cutting more foods out. We focused on crowding them out with high potassium options. The change in his energy was almost immediate. Within 2 weeks, his top number dropped by 10 points. Here is how you can use the potassium counterweight method safely. You need to understand that potassium works like a lever against sodium. If you eat a salty meal, you need more potassium to balance it out. The goal is to include one high-potassium food with every main meal. Do not rely on bananas. This is a common misconception. Bananas are fine, but they are high in sugar and only have a moderate amount of potassium. For a senior looking to control blood pressure, we want more density with less sugar. The first option is the baked potato. Many seniors avoid potatoes because they fear carbohydrates. But a baked potato, specifically with the skin left on, is one of the highest sources of potassium in the produce section. It has much more potassium than a banana. The skin is where a significant amount of the nutrients reside. You can have a small baked potato as a side dish. Do not load it with salted butter or bacon. Use a little olive oil or chives instead. The second option is cooked spinach. I say cooked, not raw, because cooking spinach shrinks it down. You can eat a cup of cooked spinach easily, which gives you a massive dose of potassium. To get that same amount from raw spinach, you would have to eat a gigantic salad that might cause bloating. Robert started adding a side of garlicky cooked spinach to his dinner 3 nights a week. It was delicious, and it was medicinal. The third option is avocado. Half an avocado provides a wonderful amount of potassium and healthy fats. It is soft, which makes it easy to chew and digest if you have dental issues. You can slice it on top of your eggs or just eat it with a spoon. Now, I must give you a very important safety warning. This is mandatory listening. If you have been diagnosed with advanced kidney disease, or if your doctor has explicitly told you to limit potassium, you must ignore this specific tip. Some kidneys cannot filter potassium well, and if levels get too high, it can be dangerous for the heart rhythm. Always check your blood work with your doctor, but for the vast majority of seniors with normal kidney function, you are likely under-eating this mineral. By intentionally adding these foods, you give your body the tool it needs to lower pressure naturally. This supports steadier readings throughout the day. The second adjustment is the nitric oxide reset. This is the most powerful same-day lever available to us in the nutritional world. It is not about flushing out salt, it is about physically expanding the pipes that carry your blood. Eleanor was 68 years old when she came to my office in a panic. She had a necessary hip surgery scheduled for the following week. She was in a lot of pain and needed this operation to walk again. But her surgeon told her that if her blood pressure was above a certain threshold on the morning of the surgery, they would have to cancel it. The anesthesia would be too risky. This pressure made Eleanor terrified. She was checking her blood pressure 10 times a day. Every time she checked, she was anxious, and the number would be high. It was a vicious cycle. She needed something that would work reliably to help her body relax, physiologically, not just mentally. She needed to boost her nitric oxide levels. Nitric oxide is a gas that your body produces naturally. It is produced in the lining of your blood vessels, which is called the endothelium. When this gas is released, it signals the muscles around your arteries to let go. The vessel widens. Think of it like widening a garden hose. When the hose is wide, the water flows gently. When the hose is narrow or kinked, the pressure builds up. As we age, our bodies become less efficient at producing nitric oxide on their own. By the time you are 60, you might be producing only half of what you produced when you were 20. This is a major reason why blood pressure rises with age. Eleanor was trying to force her blood pressure down with willpower, but her chemistry was fighting her. We introduced a specific food protocol to boost her nitric oxide levels rapidly. This is where the red drink comes in. The solution lies in dietary nitrates. These are compounds found in certain vegetables that your body converts directly into nitric oxide. The king of these vegetables is beetroot. I recommended that Eleanor drink 1 small glass of beetroot juice daily leading up to her surgery. Recent studies have shown that beetroot juice can lower systolic blood pressure, that is the top number, significantly within just a few hours of consumption. The effect is temporary, usually lasting for about 6 to 24 hours, but it is powerful. It helps to reset the resting tone of the arteries. Eleanor started this 3 days before her surgery. On the morning of the operation, she was still nervous, but her body was chemically primed to be more relaxed. Her blood pressure reading was 135/85. It was safe. She had the surgery, and she is walking comfortably today. Here is how you can use the nitric oxide reset. The most potent method is beetroot juice. You can buy this at most health food stores or larger supermarkets. You do not need a lot. About 4 to 6 ounces is usually sufficient. However, I know that many people dislike the earthy taste of beets. It can taste a bit like dirt to some people. If you cannot tolerate the juice, you can eat cooked beets. You can buy them pre-cooked and vacuum-sealed in the produce section, which saves you the hassle of peeling and boiling them. Slice them into a salad or eat them as a side dish with a little vinegar. If you absolutely hate beets, there is another option: arugula. This spicy, leafy green is incredibly high in nitrates. It is even higher than spinach. A large salad made with arugula, dressed with olive oil and lemon juice, can have a similar effect. The chewing involved in eating a salad is also good for you. There is a fascinating biological mechanism here. The conversion of nitrates to nitric oxide starts in your mouth. Bacteria on your tongue interact with the nitrates. Therefore, do not use strong antiseptic mouthwash immediately after eating these nitrate-rich foods. Strong mouthwash kills the good bacteria that help you lower your blood pressure. Let nature do its work. One safety note for this item: if you are prone to kidney stones, specifically calcium oxalate stones, you should be moderate with beets and spinach as they are high in oxalates. In that case, focus more on arugula or consult your doctor about the quantity. Also be aware that beetroot will turn your urine and stool a reddish color. This is completely harmless. Do not be alarmed and think you are bleeding. It is just the pigment from the vegetable passing through your system. This simple addition acts like a natural vasodilator. It helps your arteries open up so your heart does not have to work so hard. The third adjustment is what I call the true baseline ritual. This item is technically not a food you eat, but it is entirely about how your eating habits interact with your blood pressure measurement. If you get this wrong, you might think you are sick when you are actually fine. Arthur was 79 years old. He was a retired engineer, so he loved data. He bought a top-of-the-line blood pressure monitor for his home. Every morning, Arthur would wake up, go to the kitchen, make his toast and coffee, sit at the table, and read the newspaper. After breakfast, he would put on the cuff and measure his pressure. Every single morning, the numbers were high. He was seeing 160 over 95 consistently. He would call my office, worried that he was on the verge of a stroke. He wanted me to increase his medication. He wanted to add a third pill to his daily regimen. But when he came to see me in the clinic, his numbers were often lower than his home readings. Usually, it is the other way around. Usually, people have white coat syndrome, where their pressure is higher at the doctor's office. Arthur had breakfast syndrome. Arthur was measuring his blood pressure while his body was actively digesting food and processing caffeine. Digestion requires energy. When you eat, your heart has to pump blood to your stomach and intestines to help digest the meal. This can cause changes in your blood pressure. Furthermore, caffeine is a stimulant. It constricts blood vessels temporarily. Arthur was measuring his pressure at the exact moment his body was working its hardest. He was creating a false emergency. I told Arthur to change nothing about his diet yet, but to change his timing. The true baseline ritual is about finding your body's resting number. Here is the protocol I want you to follow to ensure your food isn't fooling you. First, the empty stomach rule. Ideally, you should measure your blood pressure in the morning before you have eaten breakfast and before you have had your coffee or tea. If you must eat first because you need to take medication with food, you must wait. You need to wait at least 30 minutes, preferably 60 minutes, after finishing your meal before you measure. This gives your body time to settle down from the immediate work of digestion. Arthur switched to measuring his pressure immediately after his morning bathroom visit, but before his coffee. His numbers dropped to 135 over 80. He did not need more medication. He just needed a better schedule. Second, you must avoid the stimulant spike. If you smoke or if you drink alcohol, these will drastically alter your readings for up to an hour. You should not measure within 30 minutes of smoking or drinking caffeine. Third, we must address the positioning errors that seniors often make. Many of you measure your blood pressure while sitting on a soft couch or propped up in bed. This is not accurate. If your back is not supported, your muscles are tensed to hold you upright. That tension raises your blood pressure. If your legs are crossed, you are compressing the veins in your legs. This can raise your systolic reading by up to 8 to 10 points. If your arm is hanging down by your side, rather than being supported at heart level, the reading will be wrong. Here is the correct way to get your true baseline. Sit in a sturdy dining chair with a hard back. Place your feet flat on the floor. Do not cross your ankles. Rest your arm on the table so that the cuff is at the same level as your heart. Sit there quietly for 5 minutes before you press the button. Do not talk. Talking raises blood pressure. Do not text on your phone. Just breathe. Arthur realized that his morning routine of reading the newspaper while measuring was also a problem. Sometimes the news was upsetting. Getting angry at the headlines while the cuff is inflating will guarantee a bad result. By separating his measurement from his food and his news, Arthur got his peace of mind back. He realized his heart was doing a good job. He stopped chasing a ghost. This is critical because if you treat a false high reading with more medication, you risk lowering your pressure too much. This can lead to dizziness and falls, which are very dangerous for us as we age. Accuracy is your best safety net. Make sure you are measuring your body, not your breakfast. One more easy change regarding measurement is the cuff size. If you have gained or lost weight recently, check your cuff. If the cuff is too small and tight on your arm, it will give you a falsely high reading. If it is too loose, it will give you a falsely low reading. Most monitors come with a standard cuff, but arms come in all sizes. If you are unsure, bring your monitor to your next doctor's appointment. Ask the nurse to check your machine against theirs. This simple calibration can save you years of worry. Once you have established an accurate baseline, you can trust the changes you make with your diet. You will know that if the number goes down, it is because your health is improving, not just because you skipped coffee. This supports steadier readings and clearer communication with your doctor. Now that we have covered the measurement, let us move on to a powerful tea that acts surprisingly like medication. The fourth adjustment uses the hibiscus ACE inhibitor mimic. This is a specific type of tea that has shown remarkable results in clinical trials, comparable to some low-dose medications. Martha was 81 years old. She was a lovely woman who lived alone and cherished her daily routines. Her favorite routine was her afternoon tea. Every single day at 3 o'clock, Martha would brew a pot of strong black tea. She would add 3 lumps of sugar and a splash of milk. She told me it was her comfort, but Martha was struggling with blood pressure that would spike in the late afternoon. She also had trouble sleeping, which we know keeps blood pressure high because the body never gets a chance to power down. The caffeine in the black tea was adding stress to her nervous system. The sugar was causing an insulin spike, which stiffens the arteries temporarily. She was drinking a cup of stress every afternoon, thinking it was relaxation. I did not want to take away her ritual. Rituals are important for mental health. I wanted to swap the ingredients of the ritual. I introduced Martha to hibiscus tea. This is not your standard herbal tea that tastes like watered-down grass. It is deep ruby red. It has a tart, cranberry-like flavor. It is often called sour tea in other cultures. Martha was skeptical at first because she liked her tea sweet, but she agreed to try it for 1 month. The results were visible on her face before we even measured her arm. She looked more rested. Her afternoon jitters were gone. When we checked her blood pressure, her systolic number, the top number, had come down by 7 points. That is a massive reduction from just changing a beverage. Here is why this works and how you should do it. Hibiscus contains anthocyanins and other compounds that act similarly to ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors are common blood pressure drugs like lisinopril. They work by relaxing the blood vessels. Hibiscus does this naturally, though more gently. To get the medicinal benefit, you cannot just dip a tea bag for 30 seconds. You need to brew it properly. Use dried hibiscus flowers or a high-quality tea bag that lists hibiscus as the first ingredient. Pour boiling water over it. Cover the cup. This is the secret step. You must cover it to keep the volatile oils from escaping with the steam. Let it steep for at least 5 to 7 minutes. The water should turn a very dark, deep red. If it is too tart for you, do not add sugar. Sugar causes inflammation. Instead, add a little stevia or monk fruit, or perhaps a cinnamon stick for natural sweetness. Martha learned to love the tartness. She started drinking 2 cups a day, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. Because it is caffeine-free, it did not disrupt her sleep. In fact, the better sleep helped lower her pressure even further. Now, I must give you a specific caution here. Because hibiscus is effective, it can interact with medication. If you are already taking a diuretic, water pill like hydrochlorothiazide, or if you are on a high dose of an ACE inhibitor, you need to be careful. You do not want your blood pressure to drop too low. This is called hypotension, and it can cause dizziness. Start with 1 cup. Monitor your numbers at home. If you see your numbers dropping nicely, tell your doctor. They might be able to lower your medication dose. That is the ultimate goal, to use food to reduce the need for pills under medical supervision. This is a delicious way to treat your heart. Subscribe for more simple blood pressure tips. The 5th adjustment is the sticky blood solver. This involves changing the texture of your blood and the flexibility of your cell walls using healthy fats. We are talking specifically about omega-3s and extra virgin olive oil. Linda was 70 years old. She was stuck in the diet mentality of the 1990s. For decades, Linda had been told that fat was the enemy. She believed that if she ate fat, it would clog her arteries like grease in a drain pipe. So she ate a very low-fat diet. She ate dry toast. She ate fat-free crackers. She used cooking spray instead of oil. She thought she was being virtuous, but her body was crying out for lubrication. Her skin was dry and flaky. Her joints were stiff, and her blood pressure was stubbornly high. Her arteries had become stiff because the cell membranes, the outer shell of every cell in her body, were rigid. They lack the flexible fats needed to be pliable. When your arteries are stiff, your heart has to pump with much more force to push the blood through. That force is what we measure as high blood pressure. Linda was afraid of the very thing that could save her. I had to explain to Linda that not all fats are the same. We needed to introduce slippery fats to help her blood glide through her system. We started with extra virgin olive oil. A recent study looking at elderly populations found that regular consumption of olive oil was associated with lower systolic pressure. It contains polyphenols that protect the lining of the blood vessels. I gave Linda a prescription, but not for a pharmacy. I told her to take 1 tablespoon of high-quality extra virgin olive oil every day, like medicine. She could drizzle it on her salad, or pour it over her vegetables after they were cooked. I told her not to cook with this specific tablespoon at high heat, because high heat can damage the delicate polyphenols. She needed it raw. We also added omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. Inflammation makes blood vessels puffy and narrow. Omega-3s calm that inflammation down. Linda did not like fish, so we could not rely on salmon or sardines. If you like fatty fish, that is the best source. Aim for wild-caught salmon or mackerel twice a week. Since Linda refused fish, we used walnuts and chia seeds. She started adding a spoonful of chia seeds to her oatmeal. She started snacking on a small handful of walnuts instead of her fat-free crackers. The transformation took about 6 weeks. It was not overnight, but it was profound. Linda noticed her skin looked better first, then her joints stopped aching as much. And then her doctor noticed her blood pressure was trending down. She was no longer afraid of healthy fat. She realized that her body was a machine that needed oil to run smoothly, not just fuel. Here is how you can implement the sticky blood solver. First, go to your kitchen and look at your oil. If you are using vegetable oil, soybean oil, corn oil, or canola oil, I want you to reconsider. These oils are often highly processed and can promote inflammation in the body. Replace them with extra virgin olive oil for low-heat cooking and finishing dishes. Use avocado oil if you need to cook at higher heat. Second, treat olive oil as a daily supplement. 1 to 2 tablespoons a day is the target for therapeutic benefits. It makes your food taste richer and more satisfying, which stops you from craving sugar. Third, look for omega-3 opportunities. If you eat eggs, buy the pasture-raised or omega-3 enriched eggs. The chickens are fed flaxseed, so the eggs contain more healthy fats. It is a small change that adds up over time. This strategy improves the slide of your blood. It reduces the friction in your vessels. Less friction means less pressure. The 6th adjustment is the dessert defense. This is everyone's favorite item on the list. It is about using dark chocolate to manage stress hormones and improve blood flow. James was 66 years old. He was a stress eater, or rather, he used to be. When he was diagnosed with high blood pressure, he went to the extreme. He cut out everything he loved. He stopped eating dessert. He stopped eating red meat. He basically lived on salads and guilt. But James was miserable. His cortisol levels, the stress hormone, were through the roof because he felt deprived all the time. Cortisol is a major enemy of blood pressure control. It tightens your blood vessels in preparation for a fight-or-flight response. James was constantly in fight mode against his own diet. He came to me asking if he could ever eat anything good again. I told him that pleasure is actually a part of the prescription, but it has to be the right kind of pleasure. I introduced him to high-percentage dark chocolate. We are not talking about a candy bar you buy at the gas station. Those are mostly sugar and milk. Sugar and milk cause inflammation. We are talking about chocolate that is at least 85% cocoa. The cocoa bean is incredibly rich in flavonols. Flavonols are compounds that stimulate the production of nitric oxide, just like the beets we talked about earlier. They help the arteries to dilate. But perhaps more importantly for James, the chocolate lowered his stress. There is a psychological benefit to ending a meal with something satisfying. It signals to your brain that the meal is over and that you are safe and fed. This lowers cortisol. James started having 2 squares of 85% dark chocolate every evening after dinner. At first, he said it was too bitter. His palate was used to milk chocolate. I told him to let it melt on his tongue slowly, rather than chewing it. When you let it melt, you taste the complexity and the fruitiness of the cocoa. After a week, he started to crave that bitterness. He found that he didn't need a huge bowl of ice cream. Just those 2 squares were enough to satisfy him. His blood pressure readings in the evening, which used to be his highest time of day due to stress, started to level out. He felt like he had his life back. He wasn't dieting anymore, he was nourishing himself. Here is how to use the dessert defense correctly. You must read the label. The front of the package must say 85% cocoa or higher. If it says 70%, it is okay, but it has quite a bit more sugar. If it says 50% or dark, but doesn't give a percentage, put it back. That is usually candy disguised as health food. The ingredient list should be short: cocoa mass, cocoa butter, low-fat cocoa powder, and a little sugar. If you see milk fat or vegetable oil listed, it is lower quality. Limit yourself to roughly 20 to 30 grams per day. That is usually about 2 large squares or 4 small ones, depending on the bar. Do not eat the whole bar. Chocolate is still calorie dense. If you eat too much and gain weight, you undo the benefits. Think of it as a vitamin that tastes good. Comment yes if you have a sweet tooth and are happy to hear this news. It is rare that a doctor tells you to eat chocolate, but the data supports it for vascular health. This small habit breaks the cycle of deprivation. It proves to your brain that you can be healthy and happy at the same time. And a happy, relaxed body has lower blood pressure than a stressed, deprived one. Another helpful step is to pair this with berries. If the chocolate is too bitter for you, eat it with a raspberry or a slice of strawberry. The natural sweetness of the fruit balances the bitterness of the cocoa perfectly. Plus, you get the extra antioxidants from the berries. Most older adults can try this safely. Unless you are sensitive to the very small amount of caffeine in chocolate or have a specific migraine trigger, this is a very low-risk, high-reward strategy. It turns your diet from a punishment into a lifestyle. The 7th adjustment is the vampire protocol. This is a somewhat humorous name for a very serious and powerful chemical reaction involving garlic. But simply eating garlic is not enough. Most people eat garlic completely wrong, and therefore, they get zero medicinal benefit for their blood pressure. We are going to use the 10-minute rule to unlock the medicine hidden inside the clove. Antonio was 72 years old. He was proud of his Italian heritage and his garden. He told me he ate garlic every single day. He would roast whole heads of garlic in the oven until they were soft and sweet, and spread them on bread. He loved it. But Antonio's blood pressure was 155/95. He was confused. He said, "Dr. Ben, I eat the healthiest food in the world. Why are my arteries so stiff?" The problem was not the food itself. It was the preparation. When you roast garlic whole, or when you throw a whole clove into a stew and cook it for an hour, you destroy the active ingredient before it ever forms. The magic compound in garlic that lowers blood pressure is called allicin. Allicin does not exist in a whole clove of garlic. It is only created when 2 separate substances inside the garlic, alliin and the enzyme alliinase, mix together. This only happens when the garlic is crushed, chopped, or chewed. However, heat destroys the enzyme immediately. So, when Antonio roasted his whole garlic, the heat killed the enzyme before it could mix with the other compound. He was eating delicious, roasted mush, but it had no allicin. He was missing the vasodilator. Allicin relaxes the blood vessels by increasing hydrogen sulfide signaling and nitric oxide production. It makes the blood flow more freely. I taught Antonio the 10-minute rule. Here is exactly how you must do this to get the benefit. Take a fresh clove of garlic, peel it, crush it with the flat side of a knife, or chop it finely. Now, this is the most important part. Stop. Do not put it in the pan yet. Do not eat it yet. Set a timer for 10 minutes. During these 10 minutes, the air interacts with the crushed garlic, and the enzyme goes to work creating the allicin. It needs this time to bloom. After 10 minutes, the medicine is created. Now you can cook it. Allicin is much more heat stable than the enzyme that creates it. Once the allicin is formed, you can saute it, throw it in your soup, or mix it into pasta, and the medicinal benefit remains. Antonio changed his cooking habit. He started crushing his garlic and letting it sit on the cutting board while he chopped his onions and peppers. He didn't change his diet, he just changed his timing. 6 weeks later, his top number had dropped by 8 points. He was thrilled. He felt like he had unlocked a secret family recipe that was actually science. Here is how to incorporate this safely. Aim for 1 to 2 cloves of fresh garlic per day using this method. If you cannot tolerate the taste of garlic, or if you have a sensitive stomach that gets heartburn easily, be careful. You can try aged garlic extract supplements, which have shown promise in studies, but real food is always the first choice if you can tolerate it. Also, a safety note for those on blood thinners like warfarin. Garlic has a mild blood-thinning effect. This is good for preventing clots, but if you are already on medication to thin your blood, adding a large amount of medicinal garlic could increase your bleeding risk. Talk to your doctor if you are on those specific medications. For everyone else, this is the cheapest heart medicine you can buy. It costs pennies, it tastes good, and it works. The 8th adjustment is the magnesium bridge. We have talked about potassium to flush salt, but we must talk about magnesium to relax the smooth muscle. Your arteries are wrapped in tiny muscles. When those muscles cramp or tighten, your blood pressure goes up. Magnesium is the mineral that tells muscles to let go. Sarah was 65 years old. She came to me with 2 problems that she thought were unrelated. First, she had stubborn high blood pressure, hovering around 145/85. Second, she had terrible leg cramps at night and couldn't sleep. She was tired all the time. She was drinking plenty of water, but the cramps persisted. She was also feeling very anxious. She described feeling tight all over, physically and mentally. This is a classic sign of the hidden hunger, magnesium deficiency. Estimates suggest that nearly half of the population does not get enough magnesium. As we age, we absorb it less efficiently from our gut. Sarah was eating a standard diet, which is usually very low in magnesium. Without magnesium, calcium floods into the cells and causes them to contract. Calcium hardens, magnesium softens. You need both, but most seniors have too much calcium acting unopposed because they lack the magnesium buffer. We needed to build a magnesium bridge to get her from tight and anxious to loose and relaxed. I prescribed a specific food: pumpkin seeds. These little green seeds, sometimes called pepitas, are one of the most concentrated sources of magnesium on the planet. They are far better than a supplement because they also contain fiber, healthy fats, and zinc. Sarah wasn't used to eating seeds. She thought they were bird food, but I asked her to try a 1/4 cup a day. She started sprinkling them on her salads. Sometimes she would just eat a handful as a snack while watching TV. The change in Sarah was remarkable because it hit 3 targets at once. First, within a week, her leg cramps disappeared. This allowed her to sleep through the night. Better sleep lowers cortisol, which lowers blood pressure. Second, her anxiety improved. Magnesium acts on the nervous system to calm down overactive firing. She felt more peaceful. Third, after 2 months, her blood pressure had drifted down to 130/80. Her arteries were finally relaxing. Here is how you can use the magnesium bridge. Buy raw or dry roasted pumpkin seeds. Unsalted is best. If you buy the salted ones, you are defeating the purpose. You can buy them in bulk bins at the grocery store. Aim for a 1/4 cup daily. This provides nearly half of your daily magnesium requirement in one snack. If you have trouble chewing small seeds due to dentures or dental work, you can grind them up. Put them in a coffee grinder or a blender and turn them into a powder. Sprinkle that powder into your oatmeal, your yogurt, or even into a soup. It has a mild, nutty flavor that goes with almost anything. One caution here regarding digestion: seeds are high in fiber. If you are not used to eating fiber, do not start with a full 1/4 cup on day 1. You might get a stomach ache or some bloating. Start with 1 tablespoon. Do this for 3 days. Then go to 2 tablespoons. Build up slowly over 2 weeks so your gut can adjust. This is a sustainable way to keep your numbers down. It is also fantastic for your bone health, as magnesium is just as important for bones as calcium is. You are solving multiple problems with one simple snack. The ninth adjustment is the celery crunch factor. This is an old wives' tale that turned out to be chemically accurate. Bill was 80 years old. He was a grazer. He loved to snack throughout the day. His problem was that he usually snacked on chips, crackers, or salted peanuts. He watched TV in his recliner and mindlessly ate hundreds of milligrams of sodium. His blood pressure was creeping up into the danger zone, hitting 160 regularly. His wife tried to get him to eat fruit, but he didn't like sweet things. He liked the crunch. He liked the savory satisfaction. I needed to give Bill a crunchy snack that acted as a medicine, not a poison. I introduced him to the power of celery. Now I know what you are thinking. Celery is just water and stringy bits. It has no nutrition. That is what we used to think. But science has identified a specific compound in celery called phthalides. Phthalides are unique. They act somewhat like a natural calcium channel blocker. They relax the tissues of the artery walls to increase blood flow and reduce blood pressure. There was a study often cited in functional medicine where patients who ate 4 stalks of celery a day saw a significant reduction in blood pressure. Bill was skeptical. He thought celery was boring. But I told him to treat it as a vehicle. I told him to cut 4 stalks of celery into manageable sticks every morning. This was his prescription pill for the day. He could eat them whenever he wanted a snack. To make them palatable and satisfying, I told him to dip them in hummus or a little bit of almond butter, checking that there was no added sugar or salt. Bill found that the crunch satisfied his oral fixation. He was chewing, which reduced his stress. He was getting the phthalides. And most importantly, he was not eating the chips. It was a substitution strategy. After 3 weeks, Bill's numbers began to stabilize. He dropped to the 140 range. It wasn't a miracle cure that fixed everything instantly, but it took him out of the danger zone. Here is how to use the celery crunch factor. The dose matters. 1 little piece of celery in a soup is not enough. You need about 4 whole stalks per day to get the therapeutic level of phthalides. Wash them well. If the strings bother you or get stuck in your teeth, use a vegetable peeler to peel the back of the stalk. This removes the tough, stringy fibers and leaves the crunchy, watery center. It makes it much easier to eat for seniors. You can also juice it. If you have a juicer, celery juice is a potent way to get the compounds without the bulk. However, if you juice it, you lose the fiber. For blood pressure, the whole food is generally better because the fiber helps regulate your blood sugar as well. But if you cannot chew that much, juice is an acceptable alternative. One safety note. Celery is naturally high in sodium compared to other vegetables. However, the sodium in celery is organic and bound to minerals and water. It does not spike blood pressure the way table salt does. But if you are on an extremely strict, medically supervised low-sodium diet for heart failure, ask your doctor before eating 4 stalks a day. For standard high blood pressure, the benefits of the phthalides far outweigh the natural sodium content. It is a refreshing, hydrating, and crunchy way to lower your numbers. The 10th adjustment is the gut-heart connection using fermented foods. We are entering a new frontier of medicine here. We used to think the gut and the heart were separate systems. Now we know they are constantly talking to each other via the vagus nerve and the immune system. Margaret was 70 years old. She had suffered from digestive issues her whole life: heartburn, bloating, irregularity. She also had high blood pressure that seemed to fluctuate wildly. One day it was fine, the next day it was sky high. She was stressed about her food because everything seemed to upset her stomach. The inflammation in her gut was spilling over into her system. Systemic inflammation stiffens the arteries. I told Margaret that we needed to heal her gut to help her heart. We introduced sauerkraut, not the soggy stuff in a can that has been pasteurized with vinegar and sugar. I am talking about raw, refrigerated, lacto-fermented sauerkraut. This contains live probiotics, good bacteria, and vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is crucial for seniors. We talked about calcium earlier. You want calcium in your bones, not in your arteries. Vitamin K2 is the traffic cop. It directs calcium out of the arteries and into the bones. Fermented cabbage is one of the best sources of this vitamin. Margaret started with just 1 teaspoon a day. Fermented foods are potent. If she had eaten a whole bowl, she would have been very uncomfortable. She put a teaspoon of the tangy, crunchy cabbage on her eggs in the morning. Gradually, she worked up to a forkful at lunch and dinner. The probiotics helped balance her digestion. Her bloating went away. When the bloating stopped, the pressure on her diaphragm released, and she could breathe better. Better breathing lowers blood pressure. Over 3 months, Margaret's fluctuating blood pressure stabilized. The spikes became less frequent. She felt a sense of well-being she hadn't felt in years because her gut was finally producing the happy chemicals, serotonin, that keep us calm. Here is how to use the gut-heart connection. Go to the refrigerated section of your grocery store. Do not look in the center aisles with the canned beans. Look near the yogurt or the tofu. You are looking for a jar of sauerkraut or kimchi that says raw, live cultures, or unpasteurized. Read the ingredients. It should just say cabbage, salt, water, maybe some spices, no vinegar, no sugar, no sodium benzoate. Start small. I cannot emphasize this enough. 1 teaspoon per day for the first week, then 2 teaspoons. You do not need a lot. A small amount daily is better than a large amount once a week. You are seeding a garden in your gut. If you absolutely cannot stand the taste of sauerkraut, you can try unsweetened kefir, a drinkable yogurt, or plain Greek yogurt. But the cabbage has the specific benefit of being higher in vitamin K2 and fiber. This is a long-term lever. It won't lower your blood pressure in 1 hour like the beetroot juice, but over 6 months, it changes the foundation of your health. It reduces the systemic inflammation that causes the problem in the first place. Comment yes if you have ever tried sauerkraut or kimchi. It is an acquired taste, but your heart will love it. The 11th adjustment is the flaxseed arterial broom. We need to talk about fiber, but specifically soluble fiber and lignans. David was 68. He was a meat and potatoes man. He hated vegetables. He had high cholesterol and high blood pressure. These two often go hand in hand. Cholesterol plaques narrow the arteries. Narrow arteries mean higher pressure. David's doctor wanted to put him on a statin and increase his BP meds. David wanted to try one last thing before adding more pills. He wasn't going to start eating salads suddenly. He was too set in his ways, so I gave him a stealth strategy, ground flaxseed. Flaxseed is unique because it is incredibly high in a type of fiber that turns into a gel in your gut. This gel acts like a sponge or a broom. It binds to cholesterol and excess bile and carries them out of the body. It also contains alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 that reduces inflammation. I told David to buy a bag of ground flaxseed. Whole seeds are useless. They will pass right through you undigested. You must buy them ground or grind them yourself. David's assignment was simple. He ate oatmeal for breakfast every day. He had to stir in 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. It has a nutty, mild flavor that disappears into oatmeal. He didn't have to eat a salad. He just had to doctor his oatmeal. He also started adding a tablespoon to his mustard when he made a sandwich. He couldn't even taste it. After 3 months, David went for his blood work. His LDL cholesterol had dropped by 15 points. His blood pressure, which usually sat at 145, was now reading 132. The broom was working. His arteries were cleaner and more flexible. Here is how to use the flaxseed arterial broom. Buying the right product is key. Ground flaxseed, sometimes called flax meal, can go rancid quickly because of the healthy oils. Buy a bag that is opaque, you can't see through it, to protect it from light. Once you open it, keep it in the fridge or freezer. Do not keep it in a warm cupboard next to the stove. If it smells like oil paint or crayons, it has gone bad. Throw it away. Aim for 2 tablespoons per day. You can mix it into oatmeal, yogurt, smoothies, soup. Add it at the end to thicken it. Meatloaf or meatballs. Use it instead of breadcrumbs. This is one of the easiest stealth health moves for seniors. It requires no chewing, it requires no cooking time, it just requires a spoon. And remember hydration, because flax is a sponge, it soaks up water. If you eat flaxseed but do not drink water, you can get constipated. Drink a full glass of water with your flax meal. This ensures the sponge expands and does its job of cleaning your system. The final adjustment is the morning hydration primer. This is the simplest yet most neglected habit for seniors. It sets the stage for everything else. Many seniors are chronically dehydrated. As we age, our thirst mechanism, the signal from the brain that says drink water, gets weaker. You might not feel thirsty even when your body is crying out for fluid. When you are dehydrated, your blood volume drops. You might think, good, less volume means less pressure, right? Wrong. When blood volume drops, the blood becomes thicker and more viscous. It is harder to pump sludge than it is to pump water. To compensate, your blood vessels clamp down, constrict, to maintain pressure to the brain. This drives your numbers up. I have seen countless patients come in with high morning blood pressure simply because they haven't had a sip of water for 12 hours. They sleep all night, wake up, have coffee, which is a diuretic, and wonder why they feel terrible. The hack is called the first 16 ounces. Before you do anything else, before the coffee, before the toast, before the medication, you drink a large glass of room temperature water, ideally 16 ounces. If that is too much, start with 8. Squeeze a little lemon juice in it if you like the taste, but the water is the medicine. This rehydrates the blood immediately. It tells the kidneys that there is plenty of fluid, so they don't need to hoard sodium. It helps the bowels move. It thins the blood naturally. Many patients report feeling more alert within minutes. This is not about drinking gallons a day. It is about front-loading your hydration when your body is most desperate for it. Try this for 3 days. Place a glass of water on your nightstand or right next to your toothbrush so you cannot forget. Measure your blood pressure after you have hydrated and waited the 30 minutes we discussed earlier. You might be surprised to see a better number just from water. We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. Let's look at the toolbox you now have. We have the potassium counterweight to flush out salt, the nitric oxide reset with beets to open the vessels, the true baseline ritual to ensure you aren't treating a false number, the hibiscus tea to mimic natural relaxation, the sticky blood solver with olive oil to lubricate the system, the dessert defense with dark chocolate to lower stress, the vampire protocol with garlic to activate enzymes, the magnesium bridge with pumpkin seeds to stop the cramping, the celery crunch to block calcium channels, the gut-heart connection with sauerkraut to stop inflammation, the flaxseed broom to clean the arteries, and the morning hydration to thin the blood. That is 12 powerful levers. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought. Do not try to be perfect. Perfection is the enemy of progress. If you try to do all 12 of these things tomorrow, you will be stressed, and stress raises blood pressure. Pick one breakfast change. Pick one snack change. Pick one drink change. Start there. Maybe this week you just start drinking water in the morning and eating 2 squares of dark chocolate at night. That is a victory. Next week, maybe you buy a bag of pumpkin seeds. Layer these habits on top of each other slowly. Monitor your numbers, write them down, watch the trend line go down, and when you see that number drop, celebrate it. It means your body is responding. It means you are taking control back from the fear. You are not just aging. You are aging intelligently. You are giving your body exactly what it needs to thrive in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. Thank you for watching. This channel is dedicated to helping you live a stronger, healthier life without unnecessary medication. If you found this video helpful, please click the subscribe button, and more importantly, share this with a friend or a family member who is worried about their numbers. You might just change their life with a simple bowl of spinach or a cup of tea. I'm Dr. Ben Harris. Here is to your health. I'll see you in the next video.